Heidi Ho, Lions fans. Welcome to the Detroit Lions podcast, episode 524. This is the Detroit Lions free agency preview, and this is the official Detroit Lions podcast for Reddit. I am the dashingest of hosts of all of the podcasts, Chris, and with me is my equally dashing co-host and good friend, Jeff the Riz Risden. How you doing, brother?
I'm good. I don't know if we're that dashing, but it's nice to be recognized that way anyway. So
we're dashing.
Thank you. It's good to be back with you, Chris. I've missed you. We've both had a lot of life going on, so we haven't been able to do a live show. We carved out a little time on Sunday afternoon here to be with our friends.
The dashingest, I will contend. But yeah, no, it's been bonkers. Got a whole bunch of info done for the draft party, and you heard the one really cool idea that's pretty off the wall and like over the top. Literally. So that one's cool. But we'll have more info coming. Again, private party, Patreon we'll get primary shots to come join us. That's really the focus there, but a lot coming up with that. So we'll talk about that. Today we'll do our warm-ups. We got that coming up. We got potential returns. This is all the free agency stuff. Who's coming back, who potentially returns, who's a potential target for free agency for the Detroit Lions, and who potentially could we trade for. We'll also do just a little segment we call Yay or Nay on some of the players. Got all that and a whole lot more. Mr. Risden, we have a great show lined up. You ready to go, my man?
Oh yeah, let's do it.
Caesar.
Let's kick this off and break it down.
I think you would be Big Caesar instead of the other one. The Illich one. All right, let's get into this. We're
Pizza
gonna go.
Box is a great arena. There's just not a lot of great action going on in there right now.
It's the oven, brother. They're gonna make the playoffs this year. Let's talk about that's a step up.
The Wings, yes, the Wings will. They didn't make any moves, but that's sort of what Detroit teams do at the deadline. They don't do anything.
They play smart. They play the long game.
We're used to.
The long game. This is a long game. All right, let's talk about warm-ups. First off, key dates. We like to ping on this a little bit here in the offseason. We'll get right to it. March 11th. That's tomorrow. The free agency negotiating period begins. It's the eve of negotiations for free agency. And March 13th, 4 p.m., the new league year begins. Trades can be made. Players can sign new contracts. And free agency really, really hits. It's not just rumors. No one's going to pull a Josh McDaniels and pull out a deal in the last second. You got the whole thing on the 13th, Tuesday. March 24th to 27th, annual league meeting. The 15th of April, off-season programs can begin. The 25th to the 27th is the 2024 NFL Draft in Detroit, and we have something very special coming up for you. Stick with us for that. You're gonna love it. You're gonna love it. And May 2nd, the deadline to exercise 5th-year option on contracts. So 21 first-round draft picks. So there's the offseason calendar. Mr. Risden, Tuesday's going to be tough. Okay, I'm flying that day. I'm going to see James Acaster in New York City at the Beacon Theater. He's English comedian. He's hilarious. Great comedian. Super awkward, but free agency day, I'm like shut down. I'm like absolutely shut down. But I want folks to know we got Bish Brown, we got Risden, we got Ash, we got you covered. Just stay tuned. We'll have all the news, info, breakdowns you need. And I may just do a Big Apple update while I'm in town for the week. I'll have hopefully a little bit of time to shoot something.
Cool.
So do that. Also, the other little warm-up we've got going on, which is kind of nice. Jalen Reeves-Maybin. Viva el Presidente. He's been elected to the NFLPA president. That's by the board, by the NFLPA board. That's really, I mean, I feel like prestigious is a weird word to use, but it is prestigious. But what a great role. He has really, he's really just kind of emerged into his own and it kind of peak football. Right, he's got his place, and he knows it, and he excels at it in the game. And then he's got outside the game what he's doing, like likely even a post football kind of a path that helping other players and doing the good fight, right? Fighting the good fight, doing the good things. I love this. Again, speaks to character and what the Lions are looking for. He came back from the Houston Texans, and just congratulations, Jalen. Congratulations, Germ. Appreciate you, man, doing what you do, and I'm proud of you. This is awesome. Very nice to have a Lion kind of take that big role.
It's very cool, and he's a guy that's got that sort of universal respect around the league, not just in the Detroit locker room, but like he's one of those guys that like when he talks, people listen. He has been an NFLPA delegate before, so he's clearly been involved in this sort of thing, and now he takes over for J.C. Treader, who retired. You can't say as the president if you're no longer playing. By the way, Treader did a phenomenal job at this. He has really advanced a lot of the things that the players specifically wanted. Most notably, the team report cards that you've seen that came out a couple weeks ago, where the Lions were upper middle of the pack. That was Treader's doing, and so Jerm has some fairly sizable shoes to fill. I don't know what his major was at Tennessee, but like J.C. Treader trained, like he went to Cornell and majored in labor relations, so like he was like born to do it.
Yeah.
So
Cornell.
It's not an insignificant task for what Jerm has taken on here. He's a bright guy. I'm sure he will do well, but he's got some big shoes to fill there. So hopefully he will be able to do that and continue to advance what the players want to advance. And not have it impact his on-field career, because there were grumbles in Cleveland that Treader might have been spending a little too much time working with the NFLPA and not enough working with his team.
Interesting.
But, I don't see that happening with Jerm, but it's just something that you do have to throw out there.
Yeah, and I mean, look, the one thing I heard, it was really clear. Coach Campbell actually went to the board and lobbied for Jerm as a player, and said, "Look, if you guys don't elect Jerm as president,
I will beat your ass."
And they took. I mean, who wouldn't take that to heart? And all the moves were made. So there you go.
I love how matter of fact Coach is. Like I say it every time, but it's still I will beat your ass. Like no doubt. Like it's just like fact. It's just like AC/DC will play the same drum beat in every song. Yes, I will beat your ass. That's what Jane Campbell's going to do.
So congratulations, Jerm. Love it, man.
Yes.
Good stuff. Love to see that good trajectory and good work with the NFL and the players. It's they need their people. All right, let's get into it. This episode is all about free agency, and I have to tell you, man. Since we last did a show, like I'm like a travel lunatic here. And now they're popping up next month. They're popping up. Like I might be in Munich next month. I got in May another one popping up. It's like, and I've been told there's a road show. Like
you gotta go to Munich in August. That's when Oktoberfest is, right?
No, it's the end of September.
Okay.
Think of the name October.
I know, but it's not in October.
Right?
So it's weird.
So you got 11 other to choose from. Setting up a global team. It's freaking nuts, man. Anyway, so there's a lot going on. We got a lot going on, and we're squeezing these in on the weekend to try to help get the coverage in there for everybody. Let's get
We
into
even
it.
had free agency news this morning, Chris.
We
Craig
did.
Reynolds is back.
Who?
Craig Reynolds was extended. So this
Was
is weird
tendered.
because I did not think that he was still an exclusive rights free agent. I thought he was just a restricted free agent. He got screwed by one game of service time back in his first season in Detroit. He only played in 5. He needs 6 to accrue an actual year. So even though this will be his 6th NFL season, he still hadn't played enough games in those years, qualifying to make it to even be a restricted free agent. So he will be back. Craig Reynolds will be back as the running back number 3 at a league minimum contract of $980,000. That got taken care of officially this morning. There was no like Craig was always coming back. There was no suspense. So just to preempt a little bit of can we get a running back in free agency? No. They also brought back Zonovan Knight, who, by the way, does not like being called Bam. Call him Zonovan. Bam. Yeah, insert your Emerald pun here. But he will be back. So he was the number 4 running back last year. He will be the number 4 this year. And Jermar Jefferson is still tethered to the team on a reserve future contract. So their entire running back room is back. And it's a good one.
Yeah.
Don't expect any prominent additions to it.
Hear that?
There you go.
All right, there you go. Really makes that whole trade up scenario in the draft less and less likely as we work forward. We've got kind of the quarterback sealed. We've got the running back sealed. I mean, there's potential players, but now the depth starts coming to you. So we'll talk about that when we get closer to the draft, after free agency opens and free agency kind of defines what they're going to do in the draft. So there's a lot to talk about here. Let's start our preview here, Riz. Let's get right to it and talk about potential returns. Who do we think is going to come back? There's one, I saw this in the Reddit and somebody asked about it, about why is everyone saying Jonah's going to be gone? And the bottom line is Jonah is asking for a lot. And I mean, the team's had an offer since the preseason. He hasn't taken it as of before the show started that we know of. He hasn't taken it. Things change pretty fluid right now. But he hasn't taken the offer, and he's asking for a lot. And he's missed a quarter of the seasons or the games over the last 2 years. It's a guy that, hey, look, he's got a lot of talent. Love the guy. For the right price, you bring him in, but you can't, for a guy you like, who's kind of had a little bit of injury trouble, so you have some question marks there. You can't just overpay. You just can't. That's not what keeps the window open for the team. That's not what helps you drive to the long-term success of the team. So, hey, you know what? I hope Jonah, wherever he lands, he has great success, as long as it isn't against the Lions. And he's not a bad dude or anything like that. He's a fine dude. It's just, the games played, the injuries and the numbers, they just didn't line up to make a deal possible. So I don't think that Jonah's back. Could I be completely wrong? They could make a deal, right? I mean, crazy things happen, but as of the last I heard, which wasn't too long ago, not a lot of movement there.
The way he would be back is if Jonah doesn't find the market that he and his representation expect out there. That's fairly true for most free agents, by the way, not just Jonah Jackson.
Yeah.
They have one idea of what they think they should get, and sometimes they get it. Sometimes they get close enough to that, like, okay, yeah, we'll do that. And sometimes it's like, wow, was my agent delusional as bleep, and I need to go back tail between my legs to where I've been successful, where I have played my way into what I think was earning that level of contract, or at least aspirational contract. And that could happen. But I'm with you. I don't see Jonah coming back, just because I do think that will be teams that will value him more contractually than what the Lions are willing to do. Because, let's face it, offensive guard, it's important. And if he goes, that makes that number 29 pick, or wherever they pick first. Don't be married to 29. Just going to say that right now. But wherever that first pick is, that makes it that much more likely that this offensive line is a great, great year for offensive line in the draft. That might factor into it. Like, oh, okay, we can pay Jonah $13.5 million per year for 3 years.
Yep.
As an average, with $25 million guaranteed. That's probably high, but you don't ask, you don't get. First rule of sales: always ask. Always ask. Worst they can do is say no.
Well, that's where I think with Jonah, just really quick, with Jonah here and players that, in general, if they don't get what they think they're worth coming back, it depends on the relationship. I'll put this out there as a caveat, but you would almost be a fool not to test your GM for their level of FOMO. And, hey, I'm looking for this. I could go out to somewhere else. I mean, you put a little pressure on them. It's responsible negotiation if done right. And so I can't fault them for it, because you're trying to get, like anything, you're in a bargain. You're trying to get your very best deal for yourself. So I understand, and it makes sense, as long, and as long as it's not breaking relationships and preventing, progress in negotiations from being made. If things don't work out the way you want, then I think it's a perfectly sound strategy. I totally do. But I just think somebody out there is, because with the way talent is on the offensive line, somebody out there is going to pay him, because there are a lot of desperate teams for O-line talent.
Do yourself a favor. Look at the Las Vegas Raiders offensive line depth chart and try not to laugh and cry at the same time. It's real bad, and they might have some money to throw at Jonah. Not saying that I don't know. I'm just saying it makes a lot of sense for the Raiders to go after a guy like Jonah, because right now their starting right guard is not on their roster because they don't have any on their zero on their roster.
Yep. And I mean, you can easily sell it as a GM. Here's a guy who played really well. He had a couple injuries, but we believe in him. Like that's how we sold Vaitai, right? When we signed him, and fans eat that up, right? People are like, okay, we can do it. We'll invest our where we're at. And GMs, I've filled the hole, and that's something else I don't have to think about in the draft because that's what free agency is about: filling a hole at the right spot for the right amount of money, and then allowing you to focus your draft appropriately. So. Just that's kind of, I didn't mean to interrupt you on that earlier. Sorry.
No, that's fine. I would just say that with Jonah, it's like other teams are going to value him more, and I don't fault him for that. By the way, this is his first shot at getting like a real payday. This is a third-round pick. He's been inexpensive, and that's one of the ways that the Lions can keep their expenses down to pay other things is by drafting a third or fourth round offensive guard that you can plug in. Or maybe Colby Sorsel emerges. We'll see. I don't know. You've got a tremendous developmental coaching staff featuring one of the best teachers in the game in offensive line coach Hank Fraley. Play to that strength. Why not? If it can save you $12 million in salary cap obligations in this year and the next, you'd be stupid not to.
Yeah, you'd be a loony. Yeah. Oh, man. Okay. So, with him, let's move on to Graham then. Graham Glasgow. What do you think? Do you think he's going to come back?
Graham is asking for more than the Lions anticipated he would ask for. And it's one of those things where he knows that at 32 years old, he's 31, I believe, but that age, this is his last shot to cash in.
Mm-hmm.
Like he's not getting, after this year, he's not getting a 3-year deal anymore. This is his last chance to get something beyond a 1-year deal to stay in Detroit. And he'd be stupid not to explore that.
Yeah.
Like if it was you in that situation, you'd absolutely be like, yeah, I want to get as much as I can while I still can. Because remember, he came back to Detroit on a little bit of a discount because he was damaged goods. He had a terrible time in Denver. A lot of that was clearly due to a major injury that nearly ended his career.
Yeah.
Don't think that's not in the back of his head, folks. He's thinking about that. And I'm not sure that the Lions correctly anticipated that part of the equation being as big of a factor for Glasgow as what it sure seems to be, based on everything that we heard down in Indianapolis at the Combine. It was one of those deals where people were coming up to people higher on the Lions media totem pole than I and asking them, Graham Glasgow's back, and like a couple of them were like, I wouldn't say that. So I won't say it either. I don't know that he's coming back. I think he's 50-50, quite frankly. I'd like him back. I would like to pay him to come back because aside from the fact he's your starting right guard, he's also your backup center. And Frank doesn't practice anymore, other than 1 day a week. Like you got to have somebody in there. That's you can slide Graham over. That's when you can get developmental time and reps for Colby Sorsel with the first team on defense, on offense.
Yep.
That situation worked out very well last year. I would like to continue that, but I don't know if Graham's going to play ball on that. I really don't.
We shall see. All right, let me move on. Let me ask you about young master Josh Reynolds, a guy who's been, I feel bad for him because he had a key drop couple like towards the end of the year, but he had so many clutch catches to get us to that point and keep us, to help us win games. Like he was so good that he had those two that, everybody, it's like an offensive lineman. You don't hear their name, everything's going great, right?
Yeah.
Reynolds did some great work this year. What do you think? Do you think he'll be back?
I don't know. I will say this. The Lions want him back. They've made that clear.
Mm-hmm.
But does he want to come back? And I've talked about this on the Huge Show. I've talked about it in a couple of other situations. If Josh Reynolds catches that pass, the Lions are in the Super Bowl. Like, no ifs, ands. They are in the Super Bowl. They are the NFC champs. That can be a very difficult environment for him to return to. He might not want to be part of that. He might want to be like, you know what? people are always going to look at me that way when I'm in Detroit, and I don't want it to be that way. Alternately, and this could be just as true, he wants a shot at redemption. He wants to be like, you know what? I owe it to the people of Detroit to give them my best and to overcome my gaffe that cost them a championship. Knowing Josh in as little as I do, I kind of think he leans towards the latter. But I don't know if he'll get the salary again. Again, he's at a critical juncture in his career with his age. The last time he tried free agency, Tennessee gave up on him in 6 weeks. That's how he's in Detroit. Didn't work, which, again, adds more layers. He's clearly great with Jared Goff. He's clearly at his best in this offense working with this quarterback. That should mean something to Josh Reynolds. But at the same time, the Lions are going to be paying other people more money than him. And is he going to get a chance to, like, let's say, and I'm just throwing out numbers here, that he gets 2 years, $11 million in Detroit, but he could get 3 years and $20 million in Houston, just as an example.
Yeah.
Where are you going to go? I mean,
you know,
at his age, that $20 million ain't coming back again. It's just not. So again, it might not be. Reynolds could want to come back. The Lions could want to bring him back, but they can't meet on a price, and he winds up going somewhere else. I could definitely see that happening very specifically.
Well, and that's one of the things people say, oh, your agents don't like that or they won't. But this is one thing that's there's a shift happening. Players are, and I want to say this carefully because I don't want to imply something different, but I'll say players are taking a more active role in the negotiations and getting what they want and directing their agents and ensuring their agents are working for them and for what they want rather than for themselves. I think for a while, the agents have had a little bit too much weight in that process, and the players' desires maybe were a little bit secondary to the agents' desires, we'll say. So not all cases, right? I understand that, but I think players are taking a more active role. And so like Kirk Cousins, the idea of give me all the guarantees, give me all the big money in my pocket. Let me play the game the way the game should be played as far as a player is concerned, right? He did really well at that. A lot of people are waking up to that. And look, if players want to take a discount to be where they're happy, because there's other things that besides money, when you've got, I'm just going to make a number, when you've got $50 million, a championship might make you happier than another 5 million. Or 10 million. And while you and I would be ecstatic with 5 or 10 million, it's a different concept when you're sitting on 50. You know what I mean? And so
right. It is. It absolutely
is.
Ben
Johnson, we talked about that with what he wanted versus what he was offered. What he wanted was more valuable to him than the dollars that were offered. And that's very much, I think we're seeing more of that. And you see it with the Zoomers today. It's quality of life is a really big focus, and I think it's good. I think it's a good kind of shift in the mental gestalt of how people are approaching things, because that sort of approach, and your mental satisfaction, your mental health, those things are important. You know what I mean? And so you go take what's yours, do what makes you the happiest, and don't let somebody else tell you how you should be doing things. I mean, that's the perfect way to ride the road to unhappiness. So I love to see the players taking a more active role. That's what tells me that if Josh Reynolds has a chip and he wants to say, that's not me, I can prove it, I've got something to prove, and he wants to stay for a little less money, awesome, love it. If he, and that's what the kind of players that Detroit's looking for, those character guys that want something, that have something, a reason to be there, other than just dollars, because everybody's there for dollars. Like if there wasn't dollars, I wouldn't go to work every day. Love my job. I actually really love my job, especially my new one. But I wouldn't go if there wasn't money. You know what I mean? I'd be playing PlayStation or something, right? And whatever else. I'd be podcasting all day. Just wouldn't, right? It's the same thing. So money's the table stakes. Now it's the rest of it. And I think that's pretty good stuff. So we'll see how that plays out.
Yeah, just one quick thing on what you talked about with the agents and the players seizing back control. That was, by the way, another big initiative of J.C. Tretter as the NFLPA president, and I suspect that Germ will also follow and continue to foster that going forward, because for too long, the players hired agents and just let them do whatever they wanted to do, and it didn't always work for players. Josh Reynolds is a great example. He should have stayed with the Rams. They offered him to stay with the Rams. He chased a little bit more money. I should say his agent chased a little bit more money, went to Tennessee, which was a terrible fit and bad situation for him. Fortunately, he got out of it and landed in Detroit and has done fairly well until the San Francisco game. But that's the exact type of situation that the NFLPA is like, hey, the agents are working for you. Don't get that mixed up.
Yep.
And for too long, players were just a little bit too eager to let the agents do everything for them. And you're right, Chris. That is one of the things, and this came up in Indianapolis a lot when anybody talked about free agency, was the players' desires are rising up above what the agent, like telling them what to do, has become. And by the way, I got that from I had dinner with an agent down there one night. He said basically those same things. He's like, the players are telling me more what they want instead of just like, hey, go do your thing. I'm going to go smoke pot on a boat somewhere. That's not what players are doing as much anymore.
Well, I think they're smoking more pot in the boats lately, actually. But I think, I think though that's and this is, I'm not going to solely put the onus on the agents here. And look, they're, you can call them lice, parasites, whatever else you want. But
there are some great ones.
Agents
there are some that are not too.
Act on a player's behalf unless they know what the player wants, and it's up to the player to be communicative about their desires as well. It's one of the things I talk about in daily life. Just you own 50% of every conversation you're in. Doesn't matter who you're talking to, anything as far as hierarchy or whatever. You own 50% of that conversation. So if you have something you want or you have needs, articulate them. Don't be afraid to take your part of the conversation and use it the way that you want to, because so much gets missed by people by not articulating what they want. Don Burr in the chat, he's been MIA all over the place, missing. Don, good to see you back, man. Hope everything's okay, and I hope you're doing well, brother. Good to you. Good to see you. All right. Let's get back to it. I want to ask you this. I could be out in left field here because, as I said, a lot going on. I haven't been able to focus in on a lot recently, and so I'm completely open that I'm relying on you here. CJGJ, I haven't heard any news, any scuttle, anything about him. My expectation last I kind of had it rattle through my head was I probably don't expect him to be back, but I wouldn't mind him back. I can. There was just one more thing. You made a point about his chatter and his chirping being something that can get on people's nerves, on his teammates' nerves, not just the opposing team, because it doesn't turn off, and it's actually just his nature. And I was getting a sense of that, a little bit of a sense of people were feeling that. So I'm just wondering, where are things with CJGJ? CD Deuce, and where's your head at?
So since that time in the last week, a plethora of safeties have flooded the market. Guys better than him, guys that are equal to him. So his potential to be like, hey, if you don't sign me for $8 million, what else are you going to get? Well, that leverage is gone. I mean, Justin Simmons, I said this the other day. I was writing it up for DraftWire, like all the safeties that are free agents and how it's impacting the safeties in the draft. While I was writing it, the Steelers cut their starting safety, Keanu Neal. Like, just bam. It was like so many. There are so many. Seattle cut both their starters, Quandre Diggs and Jamal Adams. Like, Justin Simmons is out there. Kevin Byard's out there. Although it sounds like he might be signing very soon, not in Detroit. We didn't really expect them to be here, but there's a lot. Tracy Walker's gone now, by the way. The market has really changed on him, and I have not talked to CJGJ. I doubt he would talk to me. That's okay.
He'd say something.
Yeah.
I don't think he'd not talk to you, but he'd say something.
That's fair. That's definitely fair. When I left Indianapolis, is that a week ago? A little over a week ago. The very strong sense was that he was not coming back because the market was such that he would be able to get more money elsewhere. I don't know that potential is there anymore for him to get that money elsewhere. and he might have to settle, and that would be settling on his behalf, for a 1-year, $4 million deal in Detroit.
Yeah.
And that's probably about as high as they would go. Because, again, what I said in the past is still true. Not everybody on that team and in that locker room, they respect him and they like the way he plays, but he just wears on you, man. That's a direct quote in that tone, by the way, from a player on that defense. He just wears on you, man. So I have to think that Brad is aware of that and will play it accordingly. But with the safety market the way it is, no idea what's going to happen with him. None.
Yeah, it's going to be hard for him to pull the big bucks. And after signing like a 1-year deal, I feel like he's just going to go to the biggest paycheck now, just because he's starting to get to that point. Right.
He needs to.
He's getting to that point where that's where it's time to grab the bag, right? So that's where that's at. Let's go on. Charles Harris. I don't expect him back. He's a really, really good cat. He's another one. Like, look, we didn't talk about Jerry Jacobs. I don't think look, it's still possible that he comes back. It sucks. He's such a great guy and he's such a great story. But the play just didn't quite let him keep his spot, man. That's just that. But it was through him that I got to talk to Charles a little bit. Charles is such a good dude.
Is a great guy.
Huge great heart guy on that guy, man. Huge heart. Like, really cool cat. But I don't think he's going to be back. I don't know if this year he didn't get the reps, he didn't get the opportunities, or the tank had a little bit less in it. But whatever happens, I don't feel like he's going to get back. And no will, man. Whatever happens with him, whether he retires, whether he lands somewhere else, best of luck, brother. I mean, 1st round pick, good career in the NFL. I mean, good stuff for him.
Yeah. With Jerry also, his champion on the staff is no longer there either. The coach that really fought for him early in his career and gave him a shot is no longer in Detroit. And I'll let y'all figure out who that is, but don't be surprised if Jerry winds up with that coach again.
Yeah. All right, so let's look. Vaitai, I think we can just really kind of whistle past that one. I think he won't be back.
And it sounds like he's going to retire.
Yeah,
but he just can't do it. And I would say, we always talk about he's great in the locker room. Like, let's make him I could actually see the Lions making him an offensive quality assistant where he works with the offensive line. I could absolutely see that. The way Don Muhlbach has taken over as the assistant special teams coach immediately upon his retirement because he just physically couldn't do the job anymore.
You make a great point. And I want to touch on that just a little bit because we talked about it after the Tampa game, but I've seen it a number of times. The offensive linemen on the sideline follow. I mean, I hate to use this phrase, like lost puppies, but they follow Hank Fraley. They are attached to his hip, sending in signals with him, right there, talking, listening, all engaged in part of it. And if they have to go in, I mean, they're right there. They know they have to go in. But there's truly a brotherhood amongst these cats. And I don't know another way to put it. There's a brotherhood with these dudes, and that there's an offensive line family, and with tight ends, and even Jared's a little piece of that. You know what I mean? These guys are close across the board. They're close, and you're right. He's the one. That's one group that I think would pull in a guy like that as an advisor, assistant, something like that. And Vaitai, he's one of those guys that was right there all the time, glued to Fraley and talking to Swordsdahl on the sideline. And I mean, just working with these guys as they move up and down the field and make plays and make calls. I mean, he good point. I hadn't considered that, but that's actually it's a really, really smart point, Riz.
Yeah. And if you ask Penei Sewell, he will tell you that Vaitai is a lot of responsibility for why he is the player that he is today. And I will go back to the 2022 season. Sewell struggled a little bit at the beginning of that year. And if you watch the games, when you see them come off the field, he is sitting and Vaitai is talking to him and calming him down and encouraging him and all that stuff. They are both of the same Samoan descent, and that means something to them. We learned that when we talked to Kingsley Suamataia down in Mobile. Like, that's a very huge part of their culture.
Yeah.
And I would hate for the Lions to lose that, but I don't think I think we've seen the end of Big V in an NFL playing uniform. Unfortunately,
not just the Lions uniform.
Back knee problems, like,
they're tough.
That's tough.
Yep.
Yeah.
So look at Levi, right? He's the one guy that really kind of points to progress in that space. But I mean, it's probably a little late for Halapula.
Let me add something real quick on Levi. He's not a free agent, but I have to add this in. When we were in Mobile, we talked with my friend Teron Davenport, who covers the Titans for ESPN. And we talked to him about Terrell Williams, the new defensive line coach. And he said Terrell, unprompted, brought up Levi as a player that he was excited to work with. I ran into Teron again at the Combine and had a little bit more time to spend with TD. Great guy, by the way. One of the people that's responsible for the reason I have my job today. So thank you, TD. But he said again, he's like, Terrell, man, he's very excited about what he can do with Levi. So just maybe that arrow will go up. It is a contract year coming up for Levi. He was healthy last season.
And it has been going up.
We'll see.
Let's be honest. I mean, it
has been.
It had
yes,
I don't want to say it had nowhere else to go, but it would have been hard for the arrow to go down, right?
Yes.
and so there's that. But no, he's had some good play. He's had some unexpectedly good play from where he was this time last year to where we are now. That's a hell of a change in trajectory, and it's a testament to the work that he's put in, and you know, the medical staff and everybody else around him. So I'm hoping the best. I would love to see Levi turn into something like really juicy, even like a solid, just mid-tier starter, right? Which I think he has more potential than that. And I think as he gets in, like this offseason is going to be just what puts him into football shape, to full football shape, right? And we'll be able to see what do we really have in Mr. Onzurike. So we'll check that out. All right. So moving on. Let me ask you about a guy named William Harris. He's polarizing for a lot of people, right?
He's not polarizing. People freaking hate this guy.
Some people, but he has a role in the fact that he's just so positionally flexible. Like it's like you have a backup quality player at 3 positions in Will Harris in William.
Dan will tell you every defensive back position Will Harris can play.
And no,
you won't say you said he doesn't play any of them well.
You don't want him as a starter.
Frustrated.
He's not your starter. But God, that multitaskable backup like that is so valuable. And is he now here's the question. Is he serviceable at those positions? Because if he's serviceable, then he makes a good backup. If he can just stand there and knows the play, but he's not serviceable, then there's no value in a multi-positional backup, right? And that's where the line is with a guy like William Harris. I don't call him William. It's Will.
I hope for his sake he's not back, because the fans are completely out on him.
Yeah.
It's one of those where he comes into the game and instantly, if you look on social media, like, oh, bleep, Will Harris is in, we're about to give up a touchdown. Like, that's the expectation with him. I would prefer for a guy like him to find somewhere else to play and get out of that, because he has lost all by the way, he's lost all media confidence that goes on in the press box too. Like, oh no. Yeah, so I would hope for a fresh start somewhere else for him.
Yeah.
Again, I said it before. I completely dislike him as a player. I always have. I really like him as a guy, and from that standpoint, I would love for him to go somewhere else, to leave all the baggage behind him and start fresh somewhere else and be their number 4 cornerback, number 5 safety, and special teams guy.
Yeah.
And he can do that. He can do that.
All right, let
I
me
would
hit.
just much rather see it elsewhere for his sake as well as my own.
Let me hit one more. Donovan Peoples-Jones. Interesting play. Didn't see a whole lot. Came late last year. Do you think they hold on to him?
He's another one. I actually, and I will. How do I say this? If Josh Reynolds is back, DPJ won't be back. If Josh Reynolds goes on, the likelihood of DPJ coming back goes up exponentially. And that is from one of the things that I learned in Indianapolis. He's not their priority, but he could become their priority if their priorities change.
Yeah. All right. Okay. There you go. That's our potential returns. Let's get into the potential targets. Free agency targets. This is fun. This is speculation land. Chris Jones is off the table. That's one that a lot of people were loving the idea of, right? And I can't say that I don't love the idea.
Yeah, hell yeah. He was never coming here, but hell yeah. That's fun. We can dream about that.
Yeah, I mean, look, fantasies are a real part of life. There's two guys I want to talk about defensively in particular, right? Both expensive. I recognize it. But both could make a significant impact on this team were we to get them. And with the changing salary cap, maybe there's opportunity here. Now, we know Holmes isn't usually a big splash man kind of guy, but with the way things look, he's got flexibility. What were we, 8th in the league in salary cap space? I mean, we're in a pretty good spot, top 25%. So two guys, one from the division, who's a free agent, Danielle Hunter, and the other one outside the division that I would love to steal from Ryan, Christian Wilkins. Thoughts? Dreams?
Christian Wilkins would be great. There's going to be a bidding war for him. Does Brad Holmes and Mike Disner strike you as the type of people who would engage in a bidding war?
No, I like, I'm looking at PFF and they're saying 67.5 guaranteed, 100 million off the top total. I don't see them putting that kind of a commitment on I mean, he's only 28, but I just don't see him putting that kind of commitment on him. Danielle Hunter, you're looking at 40 mil guaranteed, 65 total. That just seems a little bit more palatable. And boy, across from
still high.
I know, but across from Hutch, why you still got Hutch on your rook? I don't know. Everything's going to be high. Everything's going to be high.
It is going to be high. It's going to be, and it'll be higher than we expected. Every across the board, because again, the salary cap wound up being like 12.5 million higher than what we all expected to be. By the way, what teams expected to be. So that's great. And we do have to like mentally calibrate our spending ideas accordingly.
Right.
I'll put it this way. Would you rather pay Danielle Hunter $60 million over 2 years or 3 years or whatever? Let's just work on guaranteed money because that's all that really matters. The Chris Jones deal and the reporting of the Chris Jones deal last night showed us that. Would you rather commit yourself to paying Danielle Hunter $45 million? Or would you rather pay Jonathan Greenard $38 million? Would you rather pay Andrew Van Ginkel $30 million commitment? That's the choice that the Lions might have to make. I'll say this.
Just on Van Ginkel, PFF is saying 8 mil guaranteed, 13 mil total, 2-year contract.
That's lowballing him.
I just think of him as the guy that some managers screaming Van Ginkel every time something goes wrong.
He's a good player, but I don't think the Lions are in that premium market. And Brad basically told us that as much at the Combine when we got his official interview, and he reiterated that when he talked to us on the side. Listen to Brad. Listen to what he tells you. He's never really been deceptive about this. He pretty straightforward. Like they're not spending for the big ticket free agents. Maybe that's why he wore the villain last year and is like playing that up long and he's going to surprise us all. I really don't see it. I just don't.
Interesting.
And Hunter would qualify as a big one. But there are other just to go on my fantasy list. I would love Zadarius Smith. I think he'd be great.
I was going to ask about him, but you always have the bias toward your Cleveland guys.
I still think of him as a Packer, to be honest.
I know you do. I know you do. I just love him.
But he was good in Cleveland. Jim Schwartz knew how to use him.
31 and a half.
He's a guy.
He's 31 and a half, bro.
He is. He signed him for 1 year, $12 million. Guarantee 7.5 of it. And
now you're lowballing. You're compared to PFF, just so you know. They're saying he's 19 mil guaranteed, 24 total, 2 years at 12.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay. Yeah. All right. And again, so he's in the same situation that Glasgow is. This is probably his last shot to get multi-year job security, long-termness. And if some team will offer that, he should take it.
Yeah.
I don't know if the Lions would be the team that would offer that.
Yeah.
But if that doesn't come to fruition for him, 1 year, $12 million in Detroit, please come so you can go hit Jordan Love. Yeah. You can hit the Bears again twice. That'd be great.
Rob in the chat says Cleveland rocks. I will say Parma rocks, man.
Wow. Parma.
On the rocks.
Wow.
Oh, man. Sorry. I just had
that's a little Drew Carey-ish for you. That's great. Let's see the neck of town he's from. That, by the way, is where the Christmas Story house is.
Yep.
The movie, The Christmas Story. Yep. My good friend Mike Kukl is in. I love that. Hello, Doc. How you doing,
Jonathan Greener, they're talking a lot about him in the chat. He's only 26. Love that. Almost 27. They're talking about 52 and a half guaranteed, 76 million total. 4 years, 19 million average a year.
That's higher than what I would give him, but I'm admittedly a fiscal conservative, so I would not be paying a lot of these guys that much. But if that's the going rate and you can get him, is he better than anybody you could draft at 29? Yes, he is. I will not hesitate to say that. This is not a good year to need pass rushers in the draft.
Yeah.
I mean, even like the top two guys, like Dallas Turner, good player, going to be gone in the top 12 or so. No. I'm not there on him. I think he's good. He's got good potential, but Darius Robinson, Chop Robinson, I'm trying to think who else is in there. Latu's good, but they're not. None of them are Hutch caliber. None of them are T.J. Watt. None of them are anything near that. You're hopeful that Dallas Turner can be as good as Josh Allen has been for the Jaguars, and
yeah.
I think most people in Detroit would look at what Josh Allen in Jacksonville has done and be like, okay, I would rather not. I would rather they go after a free agent like Greenard or Zadarius Smith or Andrew Van Ginkel or who else was out there?
Here's a good one. Leonard Hollerbach. During free agency, grab the positions that will be hard to get in the draft. During the draft, snatch up the positions that are plentiful. Enough said. And that's especially with where we are salary cap wise right now. You can spend a little bit in free agency to pick somebody up who's not going to be available positionally in the draft, right? Because that's where we are. And that's why I don't think Holmes will be afraid to spend if he needs to, if he doesn't think that there's going to be the quality that he needs in the draft to build the team out. So while he traditionally hasn't spent in the draft, he's also, or in the free agency, he traditionally has been behind the eight ball from a salary cap perspective. I mean, he's cleaning up still after Quinn's disaster. So I wouldn't say it's off the table. And who was it? Don. Brad also basically said he'll spend at the appropriate time, and it may well. It may well be the correct time.
Let's hope they believe this is the appropriate time. I tend to believe they do think it is. So we'll see.
Yeah.
We'll see in 3 days.
We will. Things are really, really going to be interesting. Polar Bear says, I think fans are more interested in edge than Brad might be. Van Ginkel makes sense to me because he can drop into coverage. I think we're going to have young safeties again and young cornerbacks again. And I think Brad's going to highly value that defensive line. I really do. I think because that's how you can cover up gaps is through pressure. In the secondary. Secondary gaps can be covered through pressure. I think this year they really put a lot into the secondary, and with Mosley getting hurt and everything else, it just didn't work out. And that line just didn't get pressure throughout the year until later they started manufacturing and blitzing more. But to get some talent on that defensive line could make all the difference in helping bring those secondary players up and cover for some potential youth at positions there.
Just real quick, Mosley's back too.
Yeah.
1 year deal.
Yeah.
More money than I expected too. So good for him.
Mm-hmm.
I'm glad that they're giving him a shot. It was pretty clear that he wasn't going to go anywhere else when he stayed with the team, even though he'd been on IR all year, and stayed with them throughout their playoff run and was actively engaged in cornerback meetings on the sidelines and everything. Like that guy gets it. He's a grit guy. He's a Dan Campbell type of guy. And he will get a shot to prove himself. But this time around, I saw some people on social media commenting like, "Oh, come on, we're fucked because now we put all of our eggs in that basket again." Like, no, they brought him back. Like, free agency hasn't happened yet. The overreaction culture is in full force, and it's frustrating.
I am nowhere near as bothered by it this year.
And I will say, I will give a lot of Lions fans, the vast majority of Lions fans, credit in telling those people to go take a hike because that's not like it's cool seeing the fan base embrace that we have a competent GM, more than a competent GM. We have a really good GM, and we should probably trust him a little bit. But there's still some people that are not wanting to learn that.
I think
or not willing to accept that yet.
I think it's fair as a fan to think you have a shot at being a better GM than Matt Millen, potentially Bob Quinn. Probably fair. With Holmes, it's straight up STFU. You know what I mean? And that's that. It is until it's not. But for now, that's exactly what we're looking at. Holmes has earned everything and done a spectacular job. And for those and you too, Don, for those that were heartbroken after San Francisco, I'll say it again. Don't be sad because you lost. Be glad that it happened because, man, we made it to the NFC Championship game for the first time in 30-some years, got our second playoff win for the first time ever. The team's on the right trajectory. Everything is coming up Millhouse here. The Detroit Lions are building something special. And this is, 3 years out of the pit of Quinn and Patricia. Worry not, my friends. We're going to have some time. The window is open, and it may be blown out. I just don't see a foreseeable future in this window closing because, like, Quinn closed the window before he could even open it. Like, he glued it shut by downgrading at every position and spending more. I mean, he just could not build a roster for the life of him. We have nothing but open air. There is nothing in our future that says the window's going to close. And this was created while the team trended upward in talent growth and number of wins. I enjoy last year. Like I said, enjoy the year before the year before we had that last game win to keep Green Bay out of the playoffs. And it was like the passing of the torch, like we talked about. We were really happy because we could feel as a fan base that things were turning. Nobody predicted the Super Bowl for this team last year. It's okay. It hurts because it was right there. It was in our hands, and we really could have, should have had it. But man, we're there. We're now one of the teams in the conversation for years to come. Enjoy this ride, folks. If you've been a Lions fan for more than 4 years, you know how painful this can be. Love it, man. Just enjoy the ride. There's no team that wins every year. Even Patrick Mahomes doesn't win every year. He doesn't win it all every year. Just enjoy this ride. Enjoy relevance. Enjoy being a good team with a competent GM. And there's going to be people out there that try to take it away from you. Fuck them. They're not there for the fun. They're not there for the team. They're not there for the good ride. They're there to make your life miserable, and don't let them. Don't give them that power over you. So enjoy the ride. That's all I can say, folks, because this Lions team is special. This front office is special, and there's no reason to think that this won't be a top team in the NFL for years to come. So there you go. All right, let's talk about other targets. I know you have Jadeveon Clowney at the top of your list, again, still sticking with defense. Would you give him the $46 million guaranteed he's asking for per year?
No.
Okay, moving on.
Been there, done that. Seen the movie.
Oh my God.
Cheap T-shirt from it. Sorry.
So here, what about Lloyd Cushenberry? You're talking about Glasgow potentially being on the fence. You got Cushenberry out of Denver, right? He could come in, not too bad.
Okay.
He's only 26.
Yeah.
He can play center, give you your backup. Maybe you can toss him in a guard.
Yeah.
Thoughts?
He's a guy that would make some sense. He's better than Evan Brown in that same role, and Evan Brown is out there. So yeah, Cushenberry's that's the level of free agent offensive lineman I would expect the Lions to pursue. Guys that are marginal starters but good backups. Jermaine Illuminor from the Raiders is another one. He's a tackle. Actually, he doesn't. I will scratch that. He doesn't fit with what the Lions scheme does. He is a pass protection only specialist, and they need their tackles to be run forces. So I don't think he fits that well. Just a thought.
The only thing I'll say about free agency, and I see Bloggy Style here, love the name. I say pay up in free agency. 1 star enhances the efficacy of the other. I say don't close your window. Don't close your window prematurely with a bad deal or too big a deal. I'm okay with this. The spike, and then you fail, and then it all comes crashing down. That's no good. That's no good. That's not good for anybody. This doesn't seem to be their style. Doesn't seem to be their style. All right, Riz. No. I'm going to move on to the next topic if you're okay.
Go for it.
Feeling it. All right. Potential trades. This is you to a T, and I'm going to reference before you get too full of yourself. There was a real writer named Hefe Riston at the Lions Wire who wrote a article about a guy named Greg Newsome, and cornerback. Now, this guy knows something. He's covered the Browns before, so he knows a little something, Riz. You might want to listen to what he wrote. He puts together a pretty interesting. I'm just messing with you, bro. Interesting piece here about 3-year, $41.5 million with $22.5 guaranteed. And you got that from Over the Cap, so I'm just going to run with that. Yeah. Very interesting deal. Very interesting. Mosley, is he going to be ready at the start of the season? Do we know? Or is he going to take some time to juice up?
He tore his ACL in November, the very early part of November, I want to say. So maybe.
Yeah.
I remember writing it. He was 4 weeks behind or ahead of the schedule that Hendon Hooker was last year. And we didn't see Hooker activated until Thanksgiving? Ish.
Well, they were real soft on reactivating Hooker, though. I mean,
they were.
They were.
They didn't have any. They had no reason to rush that.
Yeah, I think they could have activated Hooker in the preseason. To be honest with you,
I basically agree with that.
That's that. So, tell us about Greg Newsome. Tell us about this guy. What you think of for a trade, and why this makes sense for the Detroit Lions.
So Newsome is a former first-round pick for the Browns, 2020, I want to say. I should probably know that. I don't know. It's been a long day. Mm-hmm. It's actually been a short day because we lost an hour of sleep last night. You want to win my vote? Any politician anywhere, stop daylight savings time. It's stupid. I hate it. Pander to me.
Just let me fall back once a year. I don't care if noon is at midnight, like it's plumb dark out. Just let me gain an extra hour of sleep every year, and I'll work with the rest of it. I'm fine.
Okay. But anyways, back to Newsome. He's a good player. He has been usurped on their outside cornerback depth chart by better players. Denzel Ward, who when he's healthy is one of the 5 best corners in the league. He's just not healthy often enough that he gets that acclaim. And Martin Emerson, a guy, I will parenthetically add, I begged the Lions to draft. I begged them to draft Martin Emerson. They went elsewhere. They did okay with it, but God, he would have been great. And he's been great in Cleveland. So they forced Newsome into the slot. But because Ward gets hurt a lot, and because Emerson's missed some time, and because they've had some other issues, he's also had to bounce outside. So he is never really acclimated to being in the slot or being outside. He's a good player. He's not a great player. He's solid. He's not a great run defender, but in coverage, he's really good the further away from the line of scrimmage you get. What's Detroit's biggest problem? Covering further away from the line of scrimmage that you get. That's kind of where he's good. So from that standpoint, he's a good fit. He can play in the slot if they want to move Brian Branch back to safety because they have zero depth there right now. I will reiterate, their depth chart right now is Kirby Joseph, Brian Branch, who doesn't actually play safety, and Iffy. That's it. I mean, they have Brandon Joseph in the UDFA from last year, who played his way out of being drafted. That's literally their safety room right now. So maybe they would want to be doing that and could bring Newsome in and play him in the slot. But I like him outside. Now, I know there are a lot of Browns fans who will say, oh, he's much better in the slot. Well, I think some of that is judged by the prism that he's not as good as Emerson or Ward. But again, Emerson and Ward are so far better than anybody that Detroit has had on the outside in a long time that I think we'd be okay with that.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like, I can't stress, like, it's weird that the Browns have 3 good starting outside corners on their team. It's weird because that's, but it worked out that way. So their issue, why would they trade him? They can't pay all those guys, and he's coming up on a contract year. He's going to get his 5th-year option, which would be, I think it's $13 million. If you use, and I use that as the base for his salary going forward because that's probably what I think they'll get on a 3 or 4 year deal. You're trading for him. You'd have to extend him right away. You're not renting. You're not trading a 3rd-round pick this year and something later than that next year to get him and not pay him. Like, that's just not what the Lions do. That felt ashy, didn't it? Didn't that just feel like ash right there?
Yeah.
That was weird. That was weird. Sorry, Ash. I didn't mean
to throw you know what I mean in there and you got it locked.
You know what? She'll start singing in Canadian.
The Falcons.
Love you, Ash.
I have to give a shout out to Ash actually while we have a second. He's been, like, with everything going on, he's been just running the ship. Like, he's been not nailing it. He's been getting everything out. So big shout out and thanks to Ash. He's been killing it for us.
Yes.
And he's been fantastical.
Indeed. Thank you to our favorite Canadian.
I might send a video of me to him this week, depending on how free agency goes. I mean, it's like, you know how I am, right? I'm Mr. ultra anal about what I do, but
yes,
I might rescind control fully just because of what's going on. So.
Yeah. So back to Newsome. So the Browns have salary issues because they gave Deshaun Watson $240-some million guaranteed, fully guaranteed. Like, they got the deer through the python a little bit this year because they rolled over like $32 million in cap room from last year to this year. They don't have that luxury anymore, so they are going to not be able to pay people. Remember, they're also paying Myles Garrett to be Myles Garrett. They're still paying Denzel Ward to be Denzel Ward. Like, times are tight. They got to pay Amari Cooper. They actually just traded for Jerry Jeudy. They're going to have to pay him. And again, if you think Deshaun Watson is going to take a pay cut or a restructure, you're dumber than the masseuses that he kept employing. That ain't going to happen. So they have to make some sacrifices, and Newsome is the most tradable and least valuable to them of their assets at cornerbacks. And now, even more now that they've traded picks, they traded a 5th and a 6th for Jerry Jeudy. They have those. They don't have the ability to recoup those. So getting extra draft picks is probably more important than it is to have a guy who's going to play one more year and then leave.
Yeah.
And parenthetically, he is not at all like CJGJ, but he is a guy that annoys fans because he celebrates all the time. He's a little goofy, not in a malicious way, but just kind of I don't know, like he's just there. He's marching to a different drummer than some of his teammates are at times, and he is not yes. If you know Jim Schwartz and the way he coaches, he does not fall into the drum line of what Jim Schwartz likes. And again,
he's just like,
yes, he will beat you over the head with whatever mallet he can find.
I just done Blue Monday by mistake, but
it's not like good or bad. It just is, and not everybody can work with everybody. So there are people that are in Cleveland who have been talking that he is ready to be shopped and is now being shopped. So now's where I will put on the insider hat from, because I did get some of this from very trustworthy sources. The Lions are not the only team that would be interested. They are not the only team that would be willing to give up with the same compensation. And here's the problem. The Lions picked 29th in the round, and the competition that they're going against picks a lot earlier than that in the same round. So if you're offering a third round pick this year, you're going to get, the Lions is what, 80 something? I can't do math. It's 29 times 3, 87? Is that 87? I think it is. I think it is 87. Yeah, I did math. I'm happy about that. Although Miami doesn't have a pick, so it might be 86 because they screwed up with tampering. In that range, though, or would you take, if you're Cleveland, would you take 80 something, or would you take 70 or maybe even into the 60s for the same player? That's not a hard decision. That's why the Lions would probably have to cough up a little bit more in compensation. Maybe they'll throw, instead of a fourth, or instead of a fifth next year, they'll have to make it a fourth. Or it will be a fifth this year instead of a sixth this year that they would have to give up to make up that ground. And I don't know the level of interest from the Lions, other than that I can confirm they've talked. I even know who talked and when they talked, but I don't know the extent of their conversation. And if they're still interested, I would expect them to pursue it, because he is the type of player that you would want to see. He is a football smart guy. He is a grinder. He comes off as a little aloof, but when it's time for business, he's down to business.
Yeah.
So we'll see. We'll see on it. I had a conversation actually with somebody in Cleveland this morning, and that person does not expect the Lions to be the team that ultimately winds up with him, but they do think that he is, in fact, being traded, and the Lions are certainly in on it.
Got it.
That's what I know.
All right. Really quick, I have to say, parenthetically, there you go, Rob. Now you got 3. Got to keep him out ahead. Got to keep nose to nose here. Sorry, just in the chat, messing around. All right. So,
parenthetically speaking, I do say that phrase a lot.
Any other potential trades there?
We got to talk about Snead in Kansas City.
Yes.
He's going to cost a little more.
Seed and feed, formerly Chuck's.
L'Jarius Snead, really good cornerback, better than Greg Newsome, and will be traded accordingly. For everything coming out of Kansas City is that they still think they're getting a first-round pick for him. I don't know that that's going to be true, but again, you don't ask, you don't get. Somebody might want to be willing to give that. I don't think it would be Detroit, but if that bidding war de-escalates a little bit, I can certainly see the Lions being interested. I don't have any insider information that they are, but I would suspect that they would be interested in adding a starting cornerback, the best cornerback on these 2-time Super Bowl champions. Who wouldn't want that, right? Like,
be nice.
That's not a hard sell for the Detroit fans. It'd be great.
Yeah.
It'd be great. Is he better than anybody could get at 29? Yeah. Yeah. You would pray that Terrion Arnold or Chris Abrams-Drain or Cooper DeJean would be close to as good of a player as L'Jarius Snead is. I would give the first for him, but I'm not Brad Holmes. I don't think Brad will.
Yeah.
Where would you go? How much would you give to get L'Jarius Snead in Detroit?
You're asking me crazy stuff, crazy talk, right?
Because
go ahead.
Parenthetically speaking, I'll add it in. One of the outcomes that happened with the Chris Jones extension is that they have to trade him now. Like they cannot pay him. They have to do something.
Yeah.
That might lower their asking price a little bit because now their dynamic has changed and like, oh crap, we really can't pay this guy. We probably need to move on from him now.
And he's going to be expensive.
Now that teams know that, maybe we'll have to take a second instead of a first this year.
Yeah.
Just a thought.
And he's only 1 year left in his contract this year, right? Yes. So it's gonna take money and picks, which he's gonna want real money, which is probably also gonna erode what Kansas City can get for him.
Yes.
Less than what you offered. That's all I could say. That's all I could say.
I don't have a problem giving up a first-round pick this year and paying him $19 million a year for 3 years.
Yeah, if you could get he's 27. If you could have a 4-year top shelf cornerback for the first-round pick this year. Let me think. For the 29th pick in the first round. Yeah. I
don't think they will, but I would.
Yeah. I can see that. I can see that working. Trying to think about it because it's potentially 4 years. I mean, you could get a cornerback though at 29 that you're going to get a career out of, right? But you don't know what you get until you get them in the building and they're
Could
actually
be Jeff Okudah.
Yeah. But with Brad Holmes, I don't think we're going to get another Jeff Okudah, especially high in the draft, right? I mean, he's done so well at talent evaluation. A first is a lot to me. As I'm sitting here working through it in my head, first is I would definitely go with a second. You know what I mean? I definitely would go with a second. I wouldn't even blink at that. First is a lot. So I'm going to go a second. 19 and 21.
21 million a year?
Yeah.
You could get that.
Yeah.
Some team could give him that.
Yeah. And if we give a second instead of a first, I could be the ones to win that war. You know what I mean? Because you're working both sides of the equation. You're working him and you're working the Chiefs, right? And that's where I'm at. Okay. Just really quick, John Martin, thank you. Welcome to the DLP Winner Circle as a member. Appreciate you. If you could, I mean, there's instructions there. Just email Chris at DetroitLionsPodcast.com a snap of your email address and your email comes with an email, I guess. And just a snap of your join, and then we'll get you access to the Slackman. Welcome to the Winner Circle, John Martin. YouTube membership. All right. Let's see. Anybody else we're thinking about trading for, Riz?
Not that I haven't heard anything. Doesn't mean it's not going to happen, but this is where like the trades would happen like today, because once free agency opens, teams are going to be like, I don't need to trade. Like I can go sign this guy. So
any deals right now have to be done in Cancun. This is when the Stafford deal kind of broke, right?
That's right. No, that broke in January.
Oh,
that happened in the January.
Oh yeah, maybe it was.
Yeah, it was.
But
I was at an IHOP in Angola, Indiana.
Oh my god, yeah, I was out my back porch having drinks with my wife and chatting with some friends, some insider friends. It broke while I was chatting with one of my friends in the building, and there was all kinds of like noise going on at once. It was nuts. I'll never forget that actually. So anyway.
It was wild
because it broke for them too. Like it broke for every like it was like like the world.
Nobody knew. Yeah. Like nobody had any. Like we all knew that they were looking to deal him, but like the immediacy and the finality of it was shocking.
Yeah,
shocking.
Yeah. And I mean, the fact that you have your quarterback now, like, and it's like, do you want him? Like, it was so much to process for people all at once. And it's now in the end,
it was an overwhelming day.
With some time and data, which is always what you need, with some time and data, people are like, okay, I'm all right with it. You know what I mean? It's like, okay,
we like golf now.
Yeah, we were just
time, not so much, but he has proven to be worthy.
We were just chanting his name in Las Vegas last night at a Wings game. I mean, yes, we love Jared Goff.
That's
I'm glad everyone's come to me. Everyone's in the Chris train.
It was pretty sweet that, like going on in Detroit and everything, but like, don't the Wings, and I don't follow hockey enough to know this, don't the Wings have somebody worthy of chanting their name? Like, I know the Pistons
the
don't.
playoffs are about to start, but Yzerman, you can chant the GM's name about now. But I think
Stevie Y.
I think we're a year away from chanting Red Wings names. I think that'll be coming.
It strikes me as a little strange that we're chanting Jared Goff
in Las
at
Vegas
events in sports that Jared Goff doesn't play in.
In away games, much less.
I'm not like opposed to it. It's just weird.
It's great.
It's one of those things that like it's almost becoming a meme of itself, and that's something I never would have expected.
Embrace it.
I want to say that a couple of Detroit media people did come out and were like, "This needs to stop." It's my old buddy Jim Costa, hi cookies, was complained about a little bit. Like, I don't want to complain about because it's cool, but it's also weird.
It is weird, but you know what? Weird is good. Like that's the whole draw of Austin, right? Keep Austin weird. Weird is good, and we're in a spot as Detroit Lions fans where we get to do it, and people are like, "I understand. Good on you. Enjoy it. It's not weird. Have fun, man." In 2 years, you start doing that, people are gonna get angry at you. They're gonna get angry because you're good, and now you're stunting on them, right? I've said this over and over, man. This is your time to really enjoy it publicly and have fun, man. Enjoy this.
We are right now where the 2004 Red Sox were when they made that epic comeback against the Yankees, and everybody, even people who freaking hate the Red Sox, were like, you know what? Good for them, man. Cool.
The Cubs even, right? Yeah, like when they had their little run. Enjoy it. Yeah. You love it.
Live it up while you can, but it is a little weird. Doesn't mean you have to stop, but it's a little weird. Especially for those of us who aren't, like, I'm not a native Detroiter. Like, it's weird to me that, I don't know, that wouldn't, like, in Houston, they wouldn't be chanting Altuve at Texans games or in the local, Chewy's restaurant. Like, it's just strange to me. Each their own, man. It's cool. If you want to chant Jared Goff, keep doing it. I know it broke out at the Grand Rapids Griffins game. My son was there a couple weeks ago.
Yeah.
And they started chanting Jared Goff. It's like, Jared. He's not even a Lions fan. He's a Texans fan. He's like, Jared Goff. Jared got in on it. Like, pretty sweet.
Yeah.
It's I like it because it shows an appreciation for Jared. And, just hearkening back to what we were just talking about when they traded for him, like, never in a million years would I have expected people chanting his name in a positive way in Detroit. That's pretty damn cool. I like that.
Ken McCain. We've never chanted a Lions quarterback name anywhere except the urinal at halftime. Then it wasn't really a chant, more like that mother. I'll tell you a name we chanted. And this is back when splitting season tickets, my friend, in the dawn of the Ford Field era, Joey Harrington. But it was Joey. It was a chant. And I'll go back. If you haven't seen it, go watch Joey Harrington's TED Talk, because I regret everything I did and said towards that guy. Man, what a heart in that cat. And I respect the hell out of Joey Harrington and what he went through. And I feel terrible that he went through what he did. Fans put him through what they did. And most that the coaches and front office did to him what they did, because fans didn't know, right? Fans just want to win. And it's Detroit's been such a Detroit place with football for so long. It's been painful. And God, to hear him tell it in that TED Talk is just, man, heart-wrenching what that man went through. So Charlie Batch chants. There was those two. All right. There we go. All right. Let's get to the next one. We're going to do a lightning round here, Riz. We're going to call it yay or nay. All right. Now, we've talked about some of these players. I'm going to say their name, and you only get a heartbeat to answer, yay or nay.
All right.
Okay? And we're going to go chop, 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 chop through these guys. All right? Some of them we talked about. All right. Are you ready?
Yes.
Buzzer's ready. Okay. And here we go, Graham Glasgow.
Yay. No, let me clarify. This is, I think they're coming back,
This
or
is
I
lightning
would.
round. This is lightning round.
But I need to
Clarify
know the
after.
parameters of what I'm answering. Is
Yay or
this
nay?
that I believe they're coming back, or I want them to come back?
You want them. You want them. That's
I
it.
want them.
Okay, ready? Lightning round. No more. You can explain at the end. Okay, here we go. Graham Glasgow.
Yay.
Jonah Jackson.
Nay.
Faster. CJGJ.
Nay.
Josh Reynolds.
Nay.
Kendall Vildor.
Yay.
Tyson Aluau.
No. Nay.
Charles Harris.
I feel already. Nay.
Alapula Vadi Vaitai.
Nay.
William Harris.
Nay.
Matt Nelson.
Nay.
Big Dan Skipper.
Yay.
Donovan People-Jones.
Yay.
Chuck Long. Sorry. Lions quarterback. He was the future.
That's going way back. I
He was
block
the
out
future.
that he was part of Detroit. I still remember him as Iowa's quarterback. That's how much I want to block that part out.
I just was like,
nay.
really? No Chuck Long chant? I was like, so I had to pull out Chuck Long for you. All right. There you go. Lightning round. Yay or nay? What Riz?
I remember asking Bill Keenis why it didn't work, because I didn't know enough football-wise when Chuck Long came to Detroit why it didn't work for him, because I remember him in college. And again, I was in like middle school then, but like, holy crap, this guy's insanely good. And it didn't work. And it always bothered me that I didn't know why that didn't work. So thank you, Bill Keenis, for explaining that to me.
Bill Keenis, we got to get him on.
Back up.
Yeah,
Yes, we do.
let's get him back on this.
He was
Us.
great.
He's fantastic. Yeah, I'm gonna call him tonight. Just check in on him. Cool cat. All right. I think Riz, this got it this week. I haven't talked about what we can do next weekend, but we could. It would have to be Saturday. So we'll talk about that off air. See what we can make work.
Saturday can probably work. I think. Yeah, I think it can. I think next weekend is an off weekend for my kids. So yeah.
Okay,
That might be able to
cool.
work.
Love it. All right. Look for us next Saturday then, folks, to be live again, and we'll cover and again throughout the week. We got Bish and Brown, we got Ash, Riz and I are probably throwing some stuff together as well. Reactions to free agency, what's going on, to tampering. Yeah. We're tampering as much as we can, including outside of the legal tampering period, because that's what we do. We scamper tamper. Lot of good stuff there. Okay, Riz, I think that's gonna call it a show. And when we do that, we say, hey, don't forget about us on Patreon, patreon.com/Detroit Lions podcast. Also, I forgot to ask people, like and subscribe. Please do that. Hit the like button. I'm testing something here. So hit the like button and hit the subscribe button and subscribe to the podcast if you're listening to the audio stuff as well. It helps us out. And
it's right there.
Yeah. And the Patreon is a great one. It's going to be Patreon people private draft party. We've got a 2,200 square foot facility with a roof looking for, well, I don't want to go there yet. Text him right now, Riz, while I'm doing the close. Text him right now. See if we can pull this off. Rooftop excitement.
That would be epic.
Yeah.
That would be unreal.
So don't forget us on Patreon, patreon.com/Detroit Lions podcast. Get access to the Slack, potentially access to the private draft party. Because let's face it, getting tickets to the draft, unless you're crack man, you're going to be in like the third deck bleachers 100 yards miles away. Why not hang out with your friends with the grills, the big screen, as big as you've seen, a fresh,
you get to watch me type
bathroom.
furiously for 6 hours.
A fresh, clean bathroom, professional environment. We've got, and you get to hang out, be part of the show. There's a lot. There's a ton going on. You're going to love it if you get to come to our private draft party. But you got to do the Patreon. Patreon.com/Detroit Lions podcast. Gets you access to the Slack if you give as little as $5 a month. Also follow us on Twitter at Jeff Risden and at DET Lions Podcast. DET Lions Podcast gives you all the updates about the show, what's going live, when we're going live, if we're not going live, what's happening. All the latest and greatest about the show is at DET Lions Podcast on the X, I guess now is what it's called. Be sure to go to DetroitLionsPodcast.com. Subscribe to the podcast, and Riz will.
I will come in your ear holes automatically.
Giggity. Giggity, right. Giggity. Oh, Frank the Tank from the East Side. Does PFF is crap? Is one thing like Brad about one thing like Brad? Dan Campbell, look, I don't know what he wrote there. Frank, I think we're back in that mode, man. Check out Frank the Tank, who got a sweet. Oh, as a matter of fact, Frank, just so you know, we're planning a trip to Malone's during the draft. We're going to get a group of people. We're coming to Malone, so we got to talk about how we can do a takeover there. More to come on that. A lot of fun. Yeah, subscribe, like, do all the stuff. Thank you for tuning in. We are going to see you next time on the Detroit Lions podcast. Remember, no pants, no toasters, no hot tubs, no problems, because we're hanging up at Malone's, and we're your Detroit Lions and Reddit connection. Thank you all for tuning in. Love you, bro.